is a skilled nursing facility. So we've got everything on this campus that we would need.
And obviously there's room for 57 more people in the other two facilities, right?
We were able to make room for, plus we took people in from Memorial, or from Hollywood Hills that came out of Memorial, and a couple from some other places that had problems.
Do you need any help if another facility's watching? If
right now,
guys.
And from Wilton Manors, we're going to take you right to Hollywood. Of course, this tragedy that unfolded yesterday that claimed the lives of 8 elderly residents. They're updating us. Let's go ahead and listen in.
To try to provide you with as much information as we can that we know has been verified and accurate. So the Hollywood Police Department, in partnership with multiple federal, state, and local agency investigators, continue to conduct a criminal investigation to determine the circumstances that led to the death of 8 people at the Rehabilitation Center of Hollywood Hills at 1200 North 35th Avenue here in Hollywood, Florida. The initial investigation has determined the facility had some power. However, the building's air conditioning system was not fully functional. Portable AC units were being used in an attempt to cool the facility. 8 patients are now confirmed dead. One of the patients died Tuesday at the facility and was taken away by a funeral home. The information on the deceased is contained within the latest news briefing. We are now releasing the names of the 8 individuals who tragically passed away here at the facility. Based on a patient census from the staff at the Rehabilitation Center, as well as a physical patient count conducted by Memorial Regional Hospital staff, the total number of patients evacuated is now confirmed to be 145. Of the 145 patients, Memorial Regional Hospital took in 141 of those patients were residents at the Rehabilitation Center here at Hollywood Hills. The other 4 were residents of the adjacent or adjoining facility, the Larkin Community Hospital Behavioral Health Services. Memorial Regional Hospital processed 119 of the patients. 39 of those patients have been admitted to various Memorial facilities. As you know, Memorial Healthcare System has many hospitals within the South Broward area. The remaining patients were transferred to Cleveland Clinic, Aventura Hospital, and Broward Health. The Hollywood Police Department has been granted a search warrant for this property, and officers are on scene continuing their criminal investigation. Officers are also working closely with the family members of the patients who were evacuated to retrieve from the building some of their small personal items and other effects. On Wednesday, Governor Rick Scott directed the Agency for Healthcare Administration, AHCA, to issue an emergency moratorium for the Rehabilitation Center at Hollywood Hills. This immediately prevents the facility from taking any new patients or any patients until it is lifted. And for additional information on that, I believe you all have the phone number for AHCA Communications. It's 850-412-3623. I don't have any additional information at this time, but I'm going to turn it over to our Chief of Police for Spanish.
Before that, have they executed the warrant?
The warrant has been signed, and but it has not been executed yet. They have not begun the search.
Where can the names be found?
The names are on the news release that was just sent out, and if you have not provided us your contact information, we'll get that from you at the end of this update, and we'll send it out to you.
Buenos días a todos ustedes.
All right, you're listening to the police chief right there with an update in Spanish. And we heard from a city official there. Officers still investigating this as a criminal investigation of the rehabilitation center at Hollywood Hills after once again 8 people were killed there. Now, she did talk about the fact that portable units were being used, but they did have some power. The AC was not fully functional, though. She also gave an update as to the condition of the 145 patients that had been evacuated. She explained that Memorial Regional Hospital took in 141 of those, and that the other 4 residents were actually residents of Larkin, which is next door. And she said of those 141, 39 had been admitted to several hospitals, some taken to the Cleveland Clinic, some taken to Aventura Hospital, and some taken to Broward Health. Let's bring in 7's Lorena Estrada there on this scene. And Lorena, you've been there since this unfolded yesterday.
Belongings from some of the patients who are now in hospitals. The one thing they did not specify were the conditions of these patients. When we spoke to the director yesterday, he mentioned that at least a dozen people were at the emergency center here at Memorial Regional Hospital. So we are waiting to learn more about that. Christine, Diana.
All right, Lorena, let's go back to that news conference once again.
Other facilities, or are in the process of being transferred to other skilled nursing facilities, and I believe that number is around 70.
And if I could just follow up, maybe a question really for the chief, but have there been any arrests in these 8 deaths?
There have not been any arrests at this point in time. Yes, one question at a time, please.
Federal regulations say that room temperature in these facilities needs to be between 71 and 81 degrees. How hot was it in there?
That's part of our investigation. We're looking into the temperature inside of the facility, the staffing inside the facility, and all of the conditions inside the facility in the hours leading up to this situation.
But can you say, and several people have told us it was near 100 degrees, if not more so.
I can't provide any information on the precise temperatures inside the facility. I don't have that information at this time. Yes.
What can you tell us to follow up on that? 2 basic questions here. Number 1, what time did the transformer go out or the AC go out? And what was the final time on the first 911 call? That time window. What can you tell us about that? And secondly, the backup generator, the generator that they had here, did it have the capability to tie into the AC system in addition to the life support and other medical systems? Those are 2 critical questions.
Yeah, I understand that those are, questions of interest to the public, and they're also questions of great interest to our investigators. We are looking into those details, and I don't want to give you inaccurate information related to the time frame specifically of power outages and the functionality of their generator and its capabilities. We do not have that information at this time.
But on the other end, you do know the time for the first 911 call, correct?
We have provided to the media a fairly detailed statement. If you have not gotten our prior statements, we will make them available on our website, www.hollywoodfl.org. hollywoodfl.org, and we'll put all of our news releases that we've put out up to this time on that. We did provide a time frame for the first 911 call that came in leading to this incident and the evacuation of the facility.
But the person that was found on Tuesday, when was that person found? The person that was found on Tuesday was died in the facility. The facility had a do not resuscitate order on that individual, and then was transferred to a nursing home. not nursing home, I'm sorry, to a funeral home. Yes, thank you. To a funeral home. And then as we began this investigation, we were made aware of that death, and we went to the funeral home. The medical examiner went to the funeral home and did claim that body, and that is now part of this investigation.
Authorities were never called on Tuesday.
No, we were not called related to that.
And when that person dies on Tuesday, does anyone from the nursing home raise a red flag that a crisis is unfolding?
We became aware that a crisis was unfolding at the facility after multiple calls in the early morning hours. Our fire rescue.
Immediately after that person is found dead, nobody raises a red flag and says, we have a problem here.
The details of all of the outreach calls, that's all part of the investigation, and you're asking for a very definitive answer, and unfortunately I can't give you that answer right now, and I don't want to mislead you on that issue, because we know that's an important issue for people, and we don't have a definitive on that right now.
Were there any working doctors inside the nursing home at the time?
We are looking into the staffing of the facility and how it was staffed. That is part of the investigation, and I know that that is also part of the state's investigation.
For the patients who are
One more question.
For the patients who are in the hospital and once they're found to be in good condition, where do they go from here? Because obviously this facility is shut down. So where will those patients go?
They are being transferred to other skilled nursing facilities, and or if they need other type of care, long-term care, they'll be transitioned to long-term care facilities in the state. And as you know, that is a difficult proposition. There are not as many beds and facilities available as there are people with needs, and so we are working through that very closely. Memorial is working very closely, even with our state offices and state representatives to facilitate that.
Unrelated to the investigation,
This really is the last question. Yes, go ahead.
Have a generator to run the air conditioner, to your knowledge, regulatorily?
You are asking someone who is not an expert in the regulations related to, yes, and you all have as much knowledge about that probably as I do. Thank you, everyone. We will try to provide updates, but it will not be in this format. Going forward, well, we will continue to put out releases, and any new releases will be posted on the city's website. If you've not provided us with your contact information, please do so, and we'll make sure that you are added to our media distribution list and you get updates. Thank you.
And you've been getting an update now from officials there out of Hollywood, where that tragedy unfolded. The most interesting piece of information, that one person did die at that facility Tuesday, but authorities were not called. That person died at the facility, and that body was transferred to a funeral home there. And now that body has been transferred to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy as part of this criminal investigation. Our coverage continues on the other side of the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back as we continue our coverage after Irma. A lot of concern right now for assisted living facilities and the conditions in nursing homes that are without.
Completely redevelop this entire site with new buildings, etc. Right now, we got to take care of the issue we have right now.
What is the answer to this to protect lives? A lot of us have loved ones who in that elderly range. What can we do to make sure tragedies don't happen again?
Well, I think, I know one of the things we have to do is put ordinances in place that mandate that any nursing homes, ALFs, etc., have emergency power, and emergency power that can actually run the generator, that conditioners and have sufficient supply so that maybe for a week they can run independently. That's really the solution, because government overwhelmed. If we had really a category 2, 3, or 4 storm, all right, we would be overwhelmed trying to get all those people the help that they need.
I want to ask you this. I mentioned that every hurricane teaches us a lesson.
Yeah.
Hurricane Andrew was the building codes.
Yeah.
Hurricane Wilma was the generators and gas stations.
Right.
Perhaps this lesson of Hurricane Irma will be that these assisted living facilities and nursing homes, that it's mandatory that they have power for a week, right?
I think that's the lesson from this, but also to, how can we strengthen our power grid? The problem in Texas was not, they have all their stuff underground, okay? It wasn't the power grid, it was actually their building. The problem here is not our building code. We have a strong building code. It's the power. And so people that are power dependent, they need to have emergency power. And unfortunately it costs money, but in order to protect lives, we need to have that emergency power, and they need to have it for at least a week so that they can take care of the people that they're supposed to take care of.
I have 2 more questions for you. You have some people who are very upset when they're looking at these nursing homes saying, oh my goodness, why is power on at a business a block away, and we have elderly people and they don't have power? What is going on with that?
Well, because it's, I'm not in the power business. I can't give you the answer to that. There's a logic to the way they do things. This again, another lesson to be learned is, okay, we hospitals, we give priority to emergency facilities, etc. We need to be looking at, okay, now where are these facilities located? The big ones, okay, let's see if we can get them power, quickly and work with FPL on that. But there's a lot of assisted living facilities that are in your neighborhood. All right, that's a little bit, way more difficult. All right, and so those and everybody else needs to have emergency power.
Is there a law right now, at least in Miami-Dade County, that you need to have emergency power for there's no law?
No, I don't believe, as far as I know, there's not. All right, and so we need to craft that. We already spoken with some commissioners about it and the need to do that, because again, if they're self-sufficient, that means that we really can help those that are in need. But we have such a large elderly population living in these kind of facilities. They really need to be self-sufficient. Power. We can always make arrangements to get the fuel to them, and we can always make arrangements for those that their generator may fail. But we need to do something about it.
So can we? For this, somebody on the county commission to bring forward an item saying, listen, we need to change this. We need to make sure that it's mandatory that these nursing homes and owners give our residents emergency power for at least a week after a hurricane.
That can power their air conditioning, us included, by the way, because this is one of our facilities.
Right.
Okay? We need to do that too. Okay. And so, obviously, yeah, we do need to do that. Another lesson learned.
Lesson learned. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carlos Jimenez just brought up some very interesting points. But certainly, there are a lot of questions being brought up by the tragedy in Hollywood, and perhaps the lesson learned here is that a law will go on the books making sure these nursing homes provide power for their residents. We're live in Miami. Rosh Lowe, back to you.
And I'm sure that's one of the topics that's being brought up as the president tours the southwest part of Florida, hit very hard by the storm. As you see there, the contingency from D.C. meeting with folks from FEMA, our emergency responders here in the state of Florida as well. Yeah, now they've just arrived in Naples, which is the area they're going to tour. Once again, that area getting hit by a Cat 3. And we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We take you to Southwest Florida, where President Trump arrived a short while ago. He's in Naples now, flanked by Vice President Mike Pence. Our own Governor Rick Scott is there, and some other local leaders. We know Senator Marco Rubio is there as well. And they're basically going to be touring some of the hard-hit areas in Naples, which of course sustained a lot of damage in the wake of Hurricane Irma.
And as you see him there, we heard from the president earlier thanking first responders firsthand. He went around the room shaking hands with those who have been there in the front lines during and after the storm, trying to keep people all across our state safe. As you're looking at these live pictures right now, we can tell you that he is expected to speak to victims there firsthand to get those accounts of what they've been going through. And of course, this visit very important to so many of us here in the state still without power. And we've been talking to you about the tragedy, of course, that unfolded yesterday. And all signs point to the fact that power was one of the contributing factors why we lost 8 lives in the aftermath of the storm. This is days after the storm passed.
And as we saw him talk to some of those first responders and FEMA officials, as well as the Coast Guard, and thanked them for their work, as he joked for a moment and said, you know, I don't want to see you again next week, briefly touching upon the fact that week after week he's been dealing with natural disasters. First, of course, in the wake of Hurricane Harvey, he visited Louisiana and Texas and those hard-hit areas. And then now he finds himself here in Florida again, ready to tour the state and specifically Southwest Florida with a man he worked very closely with leading up to this storm. And of course, we're talking about our own governor, Rick Scott, who was talking to him on a daily basis, 2 to 3 times a day. They even spoke about that pre-landfall emergency that was declared, Diana, talking about how their directive was wherever Hurricane Irma goes, we want to be there first. So signing important papers to basically get the ball rolling before the storm even hit.
Now, he talked earlier about jobs. And of course, one of the big issues here is South Florida. As we know, the lower Keys right now having a very hard time in this recovery effort, cut off from the rest of the world for the most part. And so many people there in need of supplies, but also the economy there relies so much on tourism. And that is what he was talking about. Much of what he's doing here is to try to get our state back up and running.
All right, we're going to keep watching these pictures. We can see Mike Pence is there right now. And again, a lot of what people want to see is not only hear about what's being done, but they want to shake hands with the president. They want to get a hug. They want some support. And that's what they're getting today. And we'll be right back.
All right, and welcome back to our continuing coverage as we are monitoring developments out of Southwest Florida. The president there paying a visit.
Let's go to Kristen Holmes in Fort Myers with a look at what's ahead for the president today. Kristen?
Hurricane Irma with Florida Governor Rick Scott and met with first responders. Now, he has just landed in Naples, where he will finally tour the area to see the damage and destruction and talk to people who are impacted by the storm. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump in Southwest Florida Thursday to see the devastation firsthand.
I came down to see FEMA, to see the Coast Guard, to see the Army, the Marines. The Navy, the job that everybody has done is incredible.
Recovery underway for areas impacted by Irma. Is remaining piled with debris, making access difficult. Others still flooded and rescues still going on.
2 ladies hollering, and they were in water almost up to their shoulders. I have no idea how they got there.
Utility companies work to restore power, but millions still without electricity. Sweltering temperatures making life uncomfortable and difficult. The heat plus a lack of power for air conditioning may have played a part in the death of elderly residents of a Hollywood, Florida nursing home.
I think we need to look at, the state needs to look at its entire regulatory scheme. When they inspect nursing homes, what are the requirements for backup services? What happens when there is a failure of air conditioning systems in the Florida?
A a criminal investigation underway, and authorities asking first responders to check residents in other assisted living facilities.
Want to know is why did that first death not raise any flags? That is something that authorities are now looking into. As you know, they opened a criminal investigation. The investigation just getting started. Let's listen as Hollywood officials explain what happened.
The Hollywood Police Department, in partnership with multiple federal, state, and local agency investigators, continue to conduct a criminal investigation to determine the circumstances that led to the death of eight people at the Rehabilitation Center of Hollywood Hills at 1200 North 35th Avenue here in Hollywood, Florida. The initial investigation determined the facility had some power. However, the building's air conditioning system was not fully functional. Portable AC units were being used in an attempt to cool the facility. 8 patients are now confirmed dead. One of the patients died Tuesday at the facility and was taken away by a funeral home.
And that first death now part of this investigation. We also learned that not only were the 8 people confirmed dead, but there were a total of 145 people evacuated. As you know, Memorial Regional Hospital right across the street, about 50 medical professionals, they ran and helped out with all of that. And another question many people have, we did ask during the news conference, a reporter did ask the question, how hot was it in the facility? We do know that the second floor was described as extremely hot by authorities, but again, that is something authorities were not able to answer, at least not just yet. So as I mentioned, a criminal investigation now underway. As soon as we learn more, we'll pass that along to you. That is the very latest from Hollywood. Christine, Diana, back to you.
All right, and the 145 people evacuated. We know that 39 were admitted to hospitals all across South Florida.
7's Omar Lewis is live in Hollywood with more on that. Hi, Omar.
Good afternoon. Well, we're talking about grandparents, parents, and loved ones who all died in this facility or at the hospital after a tree fell on a transformer that powered the AC unit. Taking a live look out here this afternoon, there is a criminal investigation going on, as Lorena mentioned, and a search warrant underway right now. Also, something noted from that news conference is that officials are now working to gather those personal belongings for those family members who now only have that to lean on and remember their loved ones by. The first calls for help inside what's being described as a sweltering nursing home were for victims struggling to breathe or suffering from cardiac arrest.
We know one thing is that our dad passed because of whatever happened there.
Pedro Franco speaking with 7 News by phone hours after finding out his 92-year-old father was dead. He said his father, Miguel Antonio Franco, and his mother in the Rehabilitation Center of Hollywood Hills just last week, and they seemed fine. But now his gone, and his mom, who suffers from Alzheimer's, is in the hospital, unable to tell them what went wrong.
This is something that could have been prevented.
Wednesday, chaos and confusion as concerned family members came to check on their loved ones.
I want to know what is going on with my sister.
Do you know if she's alive? It says
I
alive.
hope so, sir. I mean, this is why I came.
I think it's horrible.
Several family members of the rehab residents now have plenty of questions regarding their loved ones, many of whom were vulnerable senior citizens. Some unable to speak, others suffering from debilitating diseases. 3 patients died inside the rehab facility, 5 others taking their last breaths at the hospital right across the street.
Just they're looking for answers.
Florida State Senator Gary Farmer says he's been talking to the families of those who did not survive.
Why weren't precautions taken? Why weren't there more power supplies provided? If there weren't, why weren't people evacuated? We got a hospital right here, for God's sake.
Many of the seniors rushed here to Memorial Regional Hospital after more than 150 of them were evacuated, at least a dozen in need of serious care for respiratory distress, dehydration, and heat-related issues.
The air conditioner was not working.
Norma Wingo says she visited her longtime friend Betty Hibbard at the center Tuesday evening. The 84-year-old took her last Wednesday afternoon.
We stayed with her for about 4 hours, and then they decided they were going to take all the equipment off, and that was it. She was a wonderful, wonderful person.
And so back out here live, Governor Scott has issued a moratorium that would prevent this facility from adding or admitting any patients at this point until it is lifted. But again, there is a search warrant that is currently underway inside. And as Lorena also mentioned, they don't know exactly how hot it was inside, but we can tell you how hot it was outside. On Tuesday, temperatures reached well into the 90s. And on Wednesday, the heat index topping more than 100 degrees. So you can only imagine how hot it was inside with these folks dealing with fans and ice as their only method to keep cool. This afternoon, we're live in Hollywood. Omar Lewis, 7 News.
Our team coverage continues now in Wilton Manors.
Let's take you there right now. And Brandon Byer has the latest. Just spoke a few moments ago to the owner of a facility there that is transferring some patients. Brandon?
Well, Diana, good afternoon. Yeah, we are at the Williamsburg Landing Assisted Living Facility that's in Wilton Manors, just off Northeast 26th Street, right along Northeast 26th Street behind me here. It's empty now. They have been without power since the storm struck. They said they lost power sometime Saturday afternoon. They do have generators. Want to go to some video now of them evacuating all 57 patients, residents, I should say, living here at this assisted living facility. They lost their power, as I was saying, on Saturday. They do have a generator, but after what happened in Hollywood, the owner says that he just didn't want to take any chances. The generator was kind of shoddy, air conditioning was off and on, and they didn't feel good enough about the care that they were able to provide for their residents. So he owns 2 other facilities literally across the street, and they made the decision, but sometime around 6 o'clock this morning, okay, enough's enough. We've gone on the generator for long enough. Let's get these people safely across the street to 2 other facilities. He made some adjustments as far as bedding goes, and made room for 57 of the 57 folks who live here to move across the street. And that's what you're looking at video now. Wilton Manors police blocking traffic as they got them across the street safely. Wilton Manors Fire Rescue also here just in case someone needed assistance if there was some sort of an emergency. But we did get a chance to talk with the owner of the facility. Here's what he tells us about his decision-making process.
We have a generator. We even have auxiliary generators, portable air conditioners, fans. We were hydrating. We did everything according to the book.
And you saw what happened in Hollywood, and that's when you said...
We decided ourselves that it was just time to... We've got the air conditioning. Why not take advantage of it? So voluntarily, we just moved the residents to the other facilities where we have air conditioning, and it's working out fine.
Says it's working out fine. No one was ill. No one needed any sort of medical attention. Their generator was working, but it wasn't cooling the facility enough. He decided at the end of 5 days, and decided to move those 57 residents from Williamsburg Landed Assisted Living Facility, Northeast 26th Street in Wilton Manors, to 2 other facilities that he owns across the street. We'll keep an eye on this story, bring you any updates as we get them, as they come available. For now, we're live in Wilton Manors. Brandon Byer, 7 News.
All right, and of course, so many people in South Florida still without power.
7's Katrina Bush is in Pembroke Pines with the efforts to restore it. Katrina?
Yeah, those efforts continue, and the numbers are going in the right direction as we get closer to that deadline that leaders with FP&L put in place for themselves to have most of the power for customers along the East Coast restored by Sunday. Now, take a look at this street here in Pembroke Pines. This is the kind of problem that we're seeing in communities all around South Florida. We see this massive tree here blocking the street in this community, and it has fallen onto power lines. So that it creates an additional, because there are some scams going on around there. So FPL workers, they will not come inside your house. They also will not request personal information of yours over the phone. You can look for their official identification and for logos on their truck. So those are some things to keep in mind to stop yourself from becoming a victim. So once again, Florida Power and Light crews did say, leaders did say that by the end of the week, they hope to have most customers restored along the East Coast, but that there are some exceptions, and these are for the areas that dealt with tornadoes, a lot of flooding, or severe damage. Reporting live in Pembroke Pines, Katrina Bush, 7 News.
And so many people across South Florida dealing with that stifling heat, especially indoors.
7 meteorologist Vivian Gonzalez in the Weather Center with a look at how conditions are shaping up today. Viv?
That's right, ladies. In South Florida, another hot summer day is underway, so we want everyone to take the proper precautions. Already starting to see some pop-up showers around the interior portions in southwest Florida. Hopefully some of the activity that gets going throughout the latter part of the afternoon will bring all of the heat. For now, it remains mostly dry and sunny across the area. Satellite picture in the last 12 hours showing just fair weather clouds moving in. Right now, it is very hot in Miami, 90 degrees, 88 in Fort Lauderdale, 90 in Palm Beach. Our friends in the Bahamas checking in into the upper 80s. And Hialeah is already at 90, 88 in Miccosukee. And when you factor in the humidity that is so high, it already feels like the upper 90s. It feels like 99 degrees to the skin in Fort Lauderdale, 98 degrees in Miami, and the breeze is not helping the situation either, especially for those of you who are going to continue in the cleanup efforts. Make sure that you're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water, because this type of heat can cause dehydration and heat exhaustion, and the winds at least up to 5 miles per hour in Miami. So the forecast is calling for some spotty storms to develop inland later today. Going into tomorrow, repeat performance. And over the weekend, we will have our typical summer pattern continuing, at least a 40% rain chance, which is average for this time of year. No major weather changes in the near future, so plan accordingly, since we're going to be experiencing these type of conditions throughout the next 7 days. But here's the latest on Jose. It is a tropical storm, 70-mile-per-hour winds moving west-northwest at 7, 435 miles east-northeast of the southeastern Bahamas. The track from the hurricane center has Jose continuing in this general motion, maybe strengthening once again to a Category 1 system, but remaining no threat to land or the United States, at least until Tuesday of the upcoming week. However, Jose will be producing some large swells over the Bahamas and the east coast of the U.S., including Bermuda in the coming days. And as far as the rest of the tropics are concerned, we have 2 waves we're monitoring in the far eastern Atlantic Ocean with a medium chance to form. The one that just emerged off the coast of Africa has a 40% chance to form over this area, highlighted in orange. The one that's over 700 miles to the west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, well, that one is the one that will be encountering more favorable conditions for growth. 60% chance to form through the next 5 days. So the Lesser Antilles need to keep a close eye on it, because it could be in the vicinity of your area by the middle part of next week. Your boating forecast is looking excellent. We don't have any advisories. Bay waters are at a light chop, nice and smooth in the Keys. Couldn't have asked for better weather, with seas building inside the reef to less than a foot. 4:30 this afternoon is the next high tide in Miami. 4:58 in Key Largo. Otherwise, today, you know the drill. We're going to see more clouds later on. A few pop-up isolated inland storms. To afternoon highs will range in the 90s, but they will feel anywhere between 100 to 105 degrees for a few consecutive hours. Going into tonight, some clouds will stick around, but it will be much drier, especially out west. We'll see just a few passing showers for the Keys, with winds at least between 5 to 10 miles per hour. And on your extended outlook, at least we're going to be experiencing this type of weather at least through Sunday. There are signs that maybe next week we could get a batch of drier air settling in to bring down our rain chances to a 20%. That's your 7 on 7. We will be right back.
And live pictures right now out of Southwest Florida, in Naples to be exact. Live pictures of the president there going into an area affected by the storm. You see the governor there as well as the First Lady and Marco Rubio. The shot there a little shaky, but he is speaking firsthand to the people affected by the storm.
And a lot of people looking forward to the president's arrival. As Diana mentioned briefly, Governor Rick Scott and President Trump worked so close up to the storm, declaring that pre-landfall emergency, talking on the phone 2 to 3 times a day just to see the best way to handle this. But now it's about the people of Naples who have been in so much trouble right now after the storm, affected so greatly by not only power outages and damage that we've seen here throughout South Florida as well, the downed trees, damage to roofs in that area, because when Hurricane Irma came through, it came as a Cat 3 in that area with sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. So now it's about reaching out to the people, showing his support, meeting with residents who have been directly affected by Irma, and letting them know that help has arrived.
And want to get you some information now coming out of that area as you look at these live pictures right now. Of course, they're giving the president a firsthand account of what they went through, but also so many of those areas that he's.
That is what we were waiting to see today, as we earlier saw him shake the hands of officials. This moment right here in Naples is about reaching out to the people directly.
Now, in case many of you are wondering why he did not come to areas like the Keys that are in need of so much help, he said he did not want to get in the way of the recovery efforts right now as federal resources are going in. Let's listen in and see if we can hear what he has to say.
We can really say nobody's ever seen before. They've never seen a category like this come in, because it came in really at a 5. All you have to do is look at what happened in the Keys. But we love these people, and we're going to be back, and we're going to help. And the job that everybody has done in terms of first responder and everybody has been incredible. And by the way, that includes the people that live here, because you see the people immediately getting back to work to fix up their homes, like Bobby and like some of the others. So I just want to tell you, we are there for you 100%. I'll be back here numerous times. I mean, this is a state that I know very well, as you understand. And these are special, special people, and we love them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So President Trump showing his support for the people of Naples and Southwest Florida in general that have been affected by the storm, saying that we are there for you 100%.
7's Lauren Blanchard is in Southwest Florida with more on the president's visit. Lauren?
Yeah, hey, Christine, Diana, well, as more aid starts to flow into some of these really hard-hit areas, and folks are just trying to make sense of all of the damage. The president, of course, visiting not only here in Fort Myers, but as you just saw over there in Naples, getting a first-hand account from FEMA and those on the ground who were so impacted by this hurricane. President Trump arrived in Fort Myers for a briefing on Irma relief efforts before heading to Naples to visit with hurricane victims there. The president says more work needs to be done, but he's praising the response so far.
I think we're doing a good job in Florida. Thank you. Thank you.
Meanwhile, the investigation continues into the deaths of at least 8 people at a senior center in Hollywood Hills. Local officials say the facility's air conditioning went out during the storm and the deaths were heat-related.
The hospital's right across the street. I mean, it was hot. You have elderly people on respirators and stuff, and you have a hospital right next door.
And as anxious residents return home to assess the damage, there's been a big uptick in government including more food, water, and basic supplies to hard-hit areas that had been inaccessible due to flooding. And while people are thankful for the help, they say what they really want is for the power to be fully restored.
You have to be creative, you have to be patient. You really have to be patient.
I had a friend say, well, pretend like it's camping.
I never liked camping.
And some of these recovery efforts being staged at places like this National Guard Armory. Guardsmen now assisting local police in this area, as well as handing out basic supplies to some of those who need it here. Just one of the many areas or facilities in Florida trying to get people back on their feet. Christine, Diana?
All right, Lauren, thank you so much for that live report out of Fort Myers.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. Our coverage after Irma continues. President Trump is there in Naples, and you just saw Vice President Mike Pence, from feeding the need for support to literally feeding the need, distributing food to people in that area who are without some basic supplies.
And not only has he been speaking to these victims firsthand and there at a distribution center, but also thanking first responders, shaking their hands for all of their contributions during and now after the storm as well. And FPL crews all across the state, especially so many that have come from other states to come help restore power here in the state of Florida.
And it's wonderful to see so many of these people who have been affected by the storm smile as they take pictures. You saw them holding their phones there, taking pictures of the president. So happy to see that he's there just to show support. You see our own Governor Rick Scott there as well, Mike Pence, our vice president, and President Donald Trump, as well as First Lady Melania, helping with those food distributions. More than anything, this is about reaching out to the people directly to show that we are here for you 100%, as he just said a few moments ago.
And of course, getting the resources that so many people need right now as he's there in Southwest Florida. But of course, there's such a need in the Middle and Lower Keys, an area cut off. So many people there in desperate need of food and water and, of course, restored power in those areas. The governor has been in close communication with the president, once again trying to get all those resources to those cut off in the Middle and Lower Keys. And of course, he's here stressing that no area of Florida will be left behind, also trying to get everyone back in business, trying to get our tourism back up and running again.
We talk about this area that was hit as a Cat 3 by Hurricane Irma, sustaining winds of 115 miles per hour, up to 120 mile per hour wind gusts. And we look at these people here who have been affected by the storm in one way or another, whether they lost power, whether they lost part of their homes, whether they just need to shake a hand and hear everything's going to be okay, or eat some food that perhaps they haven't gotten their hands on lately because, again, they don't have power and they don't have access to basic supplies. They're getting that right now, and they're looking at a very familiar face, someone who has not only reached out to our FEMA officials, Coast Guard officials, Navy officials, thanking them directly for support, but actually also even thanking the people of Naples for their hard work across Southwest Florida, slowly and surely trying to recover from this storm.
And of course, try to get our economy up and running again. And in case you are wondering, why not go to those extremely hard-hit areas right now, people suffering so much in the Middle and Lower Keys? They were very strategic about where the president could go, where he wasn't disrupting those recovery efforts. And it was decided that because so many federal resources right now are going into making sure that the infrastructure of the Middle and Lower Keys is underway, he didn't want to disrupt that in any way. So this is by no means an indication that the Middle and Lower Keys is forgotten or other areas of the state of Florida. He is very clear in saying that all areas of the state of Florida are number one priority. He's trying to get the power back on, trying to get resources back, and trying to get people in the state of Florida back in business.
And just a few weeks ago, when Texas dealt with Hurricane Harvey, a lot of people were talking and speculating about how President Trump would handle the first natural disaster of his presidency. Of course, days after he visited Louisiana, he visited Texas, showing much of the support that he's showing right here, right now in our very own state. And when he was in that hangar being briefed by officials, one of the lighter moments when he joked around with officials saying, hey, I hope I don't see you next week as well. Just talking about week after week, he's been dealing with situations like this. But again, it's so important because as we've seen so many pictures of people basically in tears in the last few days because of what they've lost in this storm, today we're seeing smiles. We're seeing what seems to be a somewhat normal environment under very abnormal conditions. People holding up their phones, shaking the president's hand, taking pictures of the president and vice president, and getting a little bit of comfort.
And this is the third trip that the president has made in response to a natural disaster hitting the U.S. after record flooding from Harvey devastated parts of Texas earlier in the month. He made two visits, first to Corpus Christi and Austin, and then later to Houston, and now here to the state of Florida, and trying to provide hope and help to the people of Florida. So many who are devastated, lost their homes, lost property, and so many more still in the dark, dealing with these very hot conditions and seeing the tragedy unfold yesterday. He's also here to reassure Florida that he is providing all the resources he possibly can, and actually had FPL's president there right by his side, saying that all resources from all across the country are here. As a matter of fact, he pointed out that there is probably the largest number of FPL crews and power crews ever accumulated in one place here in the state of Florida, trying to get our state back up and running and getting business going again, because for so many Floridians who live paycheck to paycheck and to be without a job for the past week, seeing the president come here firsthand and hear their experiences, it really is providing hope that help is on the way, and all those resources of the federal government are coming to the state of Florida.
And it's providing a distraction, if nothing more. I mean, we talk so much about the physical effects of a storm like this, and you've heard it time and time again. Of course, your homes might be damaged. You might lose power. The kids are out of school. Parents can't go to work. But you basically have to deal with so much anxiety, first leading up to the storm, then after the storm, because things just don't feel normal.
And you know what's been so nice is seeing neighbors helping neighbors. I know someone opened up their home to me and my family. We're still in the dark. We're seeing that all over. And the distribution center that we saw there, we're seeing here as well in South Florida.
7's Mike DePasquale was at one in Miami, and he brings us more.
I'm with School Superintendent Alberto Carvala, and Mr. Superintendent, first of all, you have 10 locations where you're distributing food. How did this all come about?
This came about as a result of our school board recognizing the incredible need that children in the community face. 75% of children in Miami-Dade live at or below the poverty level. I spoke with some this morning and with their parents, where they said, look, this is going to be the first solid meal we'll eat in a long time. That is why we opened 8 sites at 11:30. We're opening 2 additional sites at 3 p.m. To deliver both a breakfast pack in addition to a meal ready to eat to every single person who shows up. And by the way, this is not just for children. This is for children and their parents. Tomorrow, we're actually increasing the possibility of food with cafeterias actually cooking, preparing, and serving a hot meal in an air-conditioned environment. It is the very least we can do for some of the most fragile and most impacted communities right here in Miami-Dade.
I'm going to explain in a moment how these MREs work, but the other issue, of course, is, and parents want to know this, when are schools reopening?
That is the $64 million question. We continue to work around the clock. We have deployed dozens of debris removal teams and repair teams to all of our schools. I believe on our part, on our side, we'll get everything up and running by the end of the weekend. The biggest challenge is obviously the unavailability of electricity still in 1/3 of our schools.
Structurally, the schools are sound?
That's as a result of our investment through the general obligation bond, $1.2 billion, $500 million of which has been used to repair schools and renovate schools. New windows, impact glass windows, new walls, new roofs. They withstood the most brutal abuse that Irma brought. the down power lines are impacting electricity. So to the extent of Florida Power and Light restores power to either the totality of our schools or a great percentage of our schools, will be able to open Monday, but it's still a tentative date. We'll maintain information going to the media as well as social media to maintain our community informed.
I know you've been busy, and it's comforting for all these people to see you out here. You're going to visit all the schools and make sure things are running smoothly.
Yeah, look, before the hurricane, we opened 42 shelters. I was able to visit 28 of them where we housed and sheltered 28,000 individuals. And by the way, they all ate hot meals 3 times a day. I'm thankful to our team of police, cafeteria workers, principals who've all shown up to their sites and continue to do God's work. I am going to be all throughout the community ensuring our readiness. Again, on our side, I'm feeling very confident. The biggest factor that will cause an impediment will continue to be the restoration of power, but we continue to work with FPL, and I'm optimistic.
Mr. Carvalho, thank you. I know you're a man of your word, and you're out there showing people. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a couple of sites you can go to find out about the locations. There are 10 locations. If you have power, you go to www.storms.dadeschools.net. So it's www.storms.dadeschools.net. On Twitter, you go at MDCDS and at Miami Soup. That's if you have power. If you do, pass the word along. If you have phone service, a hard line in your home, the number to call is 305-995-3000, 305-995-3000. 30,000 total meals will be distributed, 2,000 to 3,000 per location. There are 10 locations. I'm going to put this down for a second. I want to show you something real quick. These are the meals they're talking about. Now, there's macaroni and cheese, there's beef ravioli, spaghetti and meatballs. And what you do, these are MREs. These are the same type of meals that our troops in the field that protect us, to keep us all safe, that they use. You fill the water right above here where it says do not overfill. Cold water, and what happens is there's a hydrogen pack in here. You turn the top, you hold it from this end, and it takes 10 to 15 minutes. Once you feel it's hot, you can go right here and just feel it, then it's ready to eat. So again, 10 to 15 minutes. Each pack may be different, but we're told that the majority of the packs are 10 to 15 minutes. So you fill the water up to this point where it says do not overfill. This is the hydrogen pack right here. This will heat up. Hold it from the top like this, and then once 10 to 15 minute period, so feel it right here, your fingers will not burn. That way you'll know the food is ready. So again, go to the websites, go to the numbers I provided. That in turn will give you all these sites. So we know a lot of people do not have power. They will be here throughout the day. There are 10 locations throughout Miami-Dade County, the elementary schools and the high schools. Reporting from Miami, Mike DePasquale, 7 News.
As our coverage continues right now, we heard from the superintendent of Miami-Dade Schools a short time ago, and all the schools used as shelters now back up and running as crews work to get them in shape for kids to go back.
Let's go to Alex DeArmas at the news desk with some information pertaining to one particular school. Alex?
One particular school, Christine and Diana, and it's nice to report one more sign that things are slowly getting back to normal. That's because this school in Miami Shores is officially open, the very first school to open since Hurricane Irma. A very refreshing view right there as kids are dropped off this morning at St. Rose of Lima Catholic School in Miami Shores. This is near 105th Street and Northeast 4th Avenue. You can see the kids there. Some happy, some not. But hey, the parents I know are happy, and we caught up with an official there at the school. They actually said that they've had power since Monday, and today they opened because they simply wanted to give the kids a safe place to go to.
Really happy because it's air conditioning. One power line fell in my backyard, and one big tree took the power line down. And then a couple other trees fell.
And did you lose power? Were you out of power?
Yeah, we're still out of power.
So are you still at the house, or are you?
Yeah.
So how's it going there at the house without the power?
Pretty good. I mean, it's hot. We have a lot of fans going with the generator.
The kids.
Very excited. It's good for them to get out of the hotel room and let them have some fun with the kids, let them run around. Yeah, very excited to go see their friends and go have some fun.
In school today.
For our families, you know, so many of them have lost power and have had such a difficult time recuperating from the storm. We wanted to provide for them some sense of normalcy here today and provide a safe haven for the kids. You know, we were very open with the family, saying if you can't make it back, no problem. But for those of you who do need us during this difficult time, bring your kids. You know, we're here for you always.
Even the little ones are feeling that frustration because there's no power, right? So this school is with the Archdiocese of Miami, and schools with the Archdiocese are able to open whenever they feel it's safe and whenever they have the resources to do so. As far as public schools in Miami-Dade and Broward counties, we remind you they're closed tomorrow, Friday. Both superintendents have said that they hope to open on Monday. That is still not confirmed. As soon as it is confirmed, we'll let you know. Christine, Diana.
All right, Alex. And of course, as we continue right now, we also have crews on the southwest coast of Florida where the president is right now, along with folks from FEMA and other organizations there distributing food.
Yes, at that food distribution center, not only is he handing out food, but he's taking pictures with residents who have been affected by Hurricane Irma, providing basic supplies and providing some basic comfort for people who've been through a lot in the last few days. And we'll be right back.
Our coverage continues now as we, of course, get an update from our local officials as well as we heard from the president as to the recovery efforts here in Florida.
7's Rosh Lowe is in Miami with an opportunity to speak just a few moments ago to Miami-Dade's mayor. Rosh?
We're at a facility here off of 1405 Northwest 7th Street. This is a county-owned building that houses about 1,200 people. 1,200 elderly people. Now, this morning they got reports because of limited power that an elevator wasn't working, no air conditioning. So let's get to our video. And Miami-Dade's mayor, Carlos Jimenez, came out here with his team and they started delivering ice to a lot of the residents here. The mayor told me that they are expecting to get power back at this building later today. But he also mentioned that there are larger issues, of course, with the tragedy that occurred up in Hollywood. He said to me that something needs to be done about these assisted living facilities and these nursing homes when it comes to having emergency power after a storm that can last at least 1 week. Here you have a building here where the elevator goes out, where residents, all of them elderly, not dealing with the heat too well. He says something must be done. So let's take a listen to Miami-Dade County's mayor.
They had elevator problems, and so we're going to get ice to the people that live here, the elderly people that live here. That won't be, some of them have not been able to get down. So that's what we're doing here, distributing ice. We expect the power to come back, later today.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment from the mayor. He does believe that at least this building will get power later today, but the overall issue here of assisted living facilities getting extended power and nursing homes getting extended power, he tells me, will be on the top of the list for the county commission as we get into the days following Hurricane Irma, because he says a tragedy that happened in Hollywood should never happen again. We're live in Miami. Rosh Lowe, 7 News.
All right, when we come back, we're going to have more on how you can help the victims of Irma. Stick around.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Alex Diarmas live from the 7 News desk. We want to let you know that you can help our friends down in the Keys. 7 News is joining forces with Feeding South Florida, and the organization is asking for personal hygiene products, toilet paper, and diapers. All of these items will be taken and delivered to the Keys. You can drop those items off at 2501 Southwest 32nd Terrace in Pembroke Park. Now, once the power is restored, the organization will need some water, food, and snacks. You can also make a monetary contribution. Just go to our website, WSVN.com. You're watching 7 News. We're coming right back.
And as we say goodbye, here's a live look from 7 Sky Force. Specifically, this is CB Smith Park, where water is being handed out. So if you are in need of some, here's one of the places you can go. This is in Pembroke Pines.
And a lot of places right now still in that boil water order. We, of course, will have much more throughout the day. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Diana Diaz.
And I'm Christine Cruz. We'll see you tomorrow morning.